In Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, the main character is asked, "How did you become bankrupt?" He answers, "At first gradually, then suddenly." And this quote is a great metaphor to help us understand what happened in Syria, what we have witnessed in Syria in recent weeks. Russia perpetuates so-called frozen conflict in the post-Soviet space, and it did the same thing in Syria. In a way, Syria became an extension of Russia's post-Soviet space. It became a place where Russia practiced the same tactics, that is, keeping a region unstable and dependent on Russia's control. But the events that we saw playing out with lightning speed in the last several weeks confirm once again that no conflict is ever truly frozen. I'm Anna Borshchevskaya, Harold Grinspoon Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. The way to understand when, where, and how Russia became involved in Syria, first, I'd like to take a step back and look at the big picture of what was Russia trying to accomplish. First, Russia was looking to position itself in opposition to the United States. Syria was not really about Assad, and it was not really about Syria. It was first and foremost about the United States and, more broadly, US-led global order. Russia was looking to diminish American influence in world affairs, and the Middle East became a critical battleground for this global competition. If we take a look at this broader context, it helps a little bit to understand what Putin was trying to do and why he did it. Piece by piece, intervention by intervention, he was working up to this global confrontation that culminated in Ukraine. And Syria was a very important piece of this puzzle. Since anti-Assad protests broke out in Syria in 2011, Putin began supporting Assad in all ways short of a military intervention, that is, through diplomatic support, through economic support. Russia was there from the very beginning. Syria was the one place where Russia had a military outpost outside the former Soviet Union, and that is a naval facility in Tartus on the strategically vital Eastern Mediterranean. Syria was a piece in a bigger chessboard, in this bigger game that Putin was playing. And when it became clear in 2015 that Assad was about to fall, Putin could not let the United States topple yet another authoritarian dictator. And that was when Putin had gone in at the end of the year, it was September 2015 specifically, with the Russian military to prop up Assad. The significance of that event cannot be overstated, because Assad was looking at an imminent fall, and it was the Russian military, primarily Russian air power, that saved him. Since then, Russia entrenched further its military presence in Syria. It expanded it further. The West was saying for years, Assad must go. Putin said very little, but ensured that Assad stays. So this move diminished American credibility, and the rest of the region saw Russia as a great power, a player that they had to contend with, whether they liked it or not. Russia used these military bases to project power into Southern Europe, and more specifically NATO's southern flank, the rest of the Middle East, as well as further deeper into Africa, as well as for carrying out logistics operations. So this became a critical springboard of power projection for Russia. In 2020, conflict was frozen after a Russian-Turkish ceasefire agreement. It was only a matter of time before this conflict would break down. If we go back to what Syria truly was, it was a failed state in a state of frozen conflict. Assad himself, the Russian government never particularly liked him, nor frankly even respected him. They simply needed a regime that ensured their interests. And at the time, in reality, they saw no credible alternative to Assad. So the reason they stayed committed to Assad, despite paying lip service to quote-unquote Syrian people guiding their destiny, was because in reality, they simply saw no other alternatives. Assad, for his part, was a problematic partner for everyone, including the Russians. We may not know exactly what transpired in these last several weeks, but it appears that Russia was caught by surprise. They did not understand the full extent to how little Assad could control what territory he had. And in the end, they decided to cut their losses. Rather than continue supporting him, they chose to convince him to flee and take their chances with the new regime in Syria, whatever that might look like. And the takeaway for us, again, brings us back to what was Syria really about for Russia? It was never about Assad, and it was never about Syria. It was about ensuring that they have a place in Syria, in ensuring a regime that ensures their interests. And these interests are positioned in opposition to the United States. It's important to remember that Russia is not completely out of Syria. What we can expect Russia to do is to work with the existing government, whatever that government might be, to ensure that Russia retains a presence in Syria, that it continues to have some types of security guarantees for its military bases. We don't know exactly what that might look like. It might be a drawdown, but not a complete withdrawal. So first, we should expect Russia to continue to vie for influence in Syria, to ensure Russia has a place in post-Assad Syria. Second, we can be sure that whatever Russia is going to do, it is going to harm American interests and regional security. Third, I think we can expect Putin to harden his position on Ukraine. And that brings us again to this bigger picture of what Syria really was about for Russia and where we should be looking going forward. The Kremlin is primarily focused on the war in Ukraine, and Putin decided that in order to maintain that focus, they could sacrifice Assad.